How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Big Green Egg at-home cooking show. Today we're going to do a holiday favorite. It's actually going to be parfaits when it's all said and done, but the first step to doing that is making a beautiful pastry cream. So we've got all of our ingredients here ready to go, and we'll be doing it in our enamel-coated Dutch oven right here on the Big Green Egg. So I've got my temperature on the egg set fairly high because we're going to be doing basically direct grilling on this. So there are a couple of steps that are really important with this process. One of the things is we've got a cup of sugar here, and we're actually going to use this sugar in a couple of different ways. We're going to put some of it right into this bowl here, and about a third of it maybe, and then we're going to put most of it into the Dutch oven. And that's going to go with our 4 cups of milk, which we're actually going to reserve back just a little bit of that on as well. About half a cup we're going to hold back on putting in there. So this is going to go right onto the fire, and that'll start to heat up for us. And while it's doing that, the sugar that's in the milk right now is actually there to help protect the milk from scalding. So since we're not too worried about it, we'll just let that set. Now for the rest of the recipe, this part's really important. So here we have half a cup of cornstarch. We're going to put that right in with our sugar. We're going to mix this up. The sugar is going to actually sift the cornstarch a little bit to make sure that you don't have any lumps. And we're going to slowly incorporate some of our milk. This is going to turn this into kind of like a slurry that you'd use for thickening gravy or something like that. You want to make sure that you have no lumps in this, because lumps now will translate into lumps later. And obviously when you're making a pastry cream or any sort of cream, you don't want any lumps in it. Alright. So now we'll just go ahead and throw in the rest of our milk here. Now we've also got 9 egg yolks, and those are going to go right into this as well. Mix all this up. Alright, so this is ready for when our main body of milk starts to boil. Alright, so let's check on that, see how it's doing. Looks like we're getting close. All right, we'll give that just a minute, and once that comes to a boil, we'll be right back. So it's been a couple of minutes, and we've got a little bit of boiling action going on in our Dutch oven here. You don't want to let it go too long because you don't want to scald the milk. But now we're going to do, this is called tempering, where we're actually going to take some of the hot liquid and put it in with our egg, because if you just pour this egg right into there, it's going to cook the egg immediately. Once again, causing lumps. So we're going to take just a couple of ladles full here. Incorporate that in. Alright, that should be good. Now we're going to take this mixture, which is now nice and warm. So you want to make sure that you stir this constantly, once again avoiding lumps. So you'll make sure that you get all the corners. Just like this. And it'll start to thicken up fairly quick. Now, once it gets to a nice thickened consistency right about there, you can actually see it thickening up well. Now, we do want to let this boil for just a little bit because you want to get that starchy flavor out. And that's got a nice boil to it. All right, so now that we've got our pastry cream cooked, we're gonna go ahead and strain it. With any luck, we won't have a whole lot along the edges that got stuck to the pot. Oh, look at that. That is absolutely beautiful. So now, I'm just gonna work this through the strainer. Last couple of ingredients that we're gonna add here are a little bit of salt and a little bit of vanilla. There's a teaspoon of vanilla and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt that's gonna go into this. Now, you don't wanna force your pastry cream through, because if you do have lumps, you can force those through the colander. So now, we're gonna take our salt. Once again, it's only about a 1/4 teaspoon. And then a teaspoon of vanilla. Those will go right into the pastry cream. Get those incorporated. Now, because I am actually wanting to do a vanilla and a chocolate both, we're gonna go ahead and take 1/3 of a cup of dark chocolate chips into about half of our pastry cream. All right. Just mix this up real well. There we go, look at that. All right, now for the next portion of this, we're actually going to take plastic wrap and put it directly down onto the pastry cream while it cools. And the reason you want to do that is because otherwise it'll develop a skin on the top that is not really all that tasty. So here we go. There's our chocolate, there's our vanilla. I'm gonna get these wrapped up and cooled, and then we'll be right back for the next portion of our parfaits. All right, so our pastry cream has had a chance to cool, and if you take a look here, we've actually got that plastic wrap directly on top. And when you peel it off, that will not have any skin to it. So, one of the things that we're gonna do is actually lighten this with a whipped cream. And if you wanna skip this step, you absolutely can. You can use, ready whipped topping or whatever. Or you can use the stuff out of the can, which is actually, real whipped cream. But if you're gonna go through all this effort, we may as well go ahead and do this part too. So, I'm gonna put about, probably a cup and a half of cream into my mixer with the whip attachment. I'm gonna get this going just a little bit here. Once that starts to get a few bubbles in there, I'm gonna mix in a fairly small amount, probably about a teaspoon of sugar. The thing is, the cream actually already has some sweetness to it, so you don't want to over-sweeten that. So you also want to make sure that you don't over-whip that, so you're going to want to pay attention to this. So while that's whipping though, we'll go ahead and get our pastry cream ready to lighten. As you can see, it's kind of firmed up a little bit. So you want to take a good wire whisk and just mix that up. There we go. And if you do this vanilla and then chocolate, you don't even have to worry about cleaning your utensil. Just got to make sure that you incorporate it back in real well. check on our whipped cream here. All right, that's got a little bit of time left to go. So, let's talk about the actual parfait itself. You can really do whatever you want here. There's obviously a lot of traditional things that you can do as far as putting, little bits of cake or cookies, fruits. Really, the sky's the limit on what you want to do with yours. So today we're going to be doing, like I say, 2 different kinds. So we're going to do one that's a vanilla with some berries and some crushed vanilla wafers. And then we've also got some Oreos that we crushed up to use as the cake product for the chocolate. All right, if you take a look at the whipped cream here, that's getting real close. Starting to kind of hold its form a little bit. Now the reason you want to be real careful is because if you over whip it, you'll actually start to turn it into butter. Let's see if we're good here. Now what you're going to want is that it's actually going to kind of hold a little bit of a peak. So see how it's kind of falling off there? We'll give it just a little more time. There we go. So we've got kind of a soft peak to that. For what we're going to be doing here, that's going to be good. And then this will be the point in time that you would incorporate a little bit of vanilla. And just a couple of little drops there will do. Okay, that ought to do it. Now, like I said, we're going to lighten this. So we've got a fairly thick consistency to our pastry cream right now. So we're going to take a portion, fairly small amount of our whipped cream and put that in there. Now we're going to fold it in. And what that'll do is it'll just incorporate a little air into the finished product and give it a little bit nicer mouthfeel to it. And you want to do this in 2 stages. This first stage is really just kind of help break up that pastry cream a little bit more. You'll also see we're getting a lot of volume out of that. And once it's nice and smooth, we can incorporate about that same amount again, maybe a little more if you want. Once again, there's a lot of this that you can kind of play with. There we go. sides a little bit. And then we'll do the same thing with the chocolate. Again, kind of a small amount to start with. On this first incorporation, if you don't get it 100%, it's fine, because you're going to end up finishing it off in the last portion. Actually, it looks like I may have put a little more in here than I originally anticipated, so I may not even put too much in the second edition. And of course, you can use whatever cups you want. You can use the, nice tall wine glasses or something like that if it's a fancy dinner party or something. But we're going to go ahead and just use some disposables for today. So we're going to start out putting some of our vanilla pastry cream in here. So that. Kind of tap that down a little bit. Take some of our vanilla wafers, a little layer of that in there. I'll take another small portion of our pastry cream. I did actually grab some spoons to do this with, but there we go. Now I'll take a couple of these fresh berries, put them in here. A few blueberries in there too. There we go. And a few extra aren't going to hurt anybody. And then if you want to get fancy with it, you can actually take your piping bag, the star tip to it, a little bit of our whipped cream here. And we can do a little rosette if we'd like. Maybe we'll take one of these raspberries and put it right on top. And there you go. And then since we went through the effort of making the chocolate, we should most certainly just see how it turns out, right? So once again, we'll put a nice little layer in there. Some of our cookies for a little bit of texture. Gives a nice little crunch when you get there. You don't really want to push down on that too hard because then you'll lose your layering. And we'll throw a few more cookies right on top here. And let's say, do some little stars on this one. There we go. And there you have a couple of really simple, very classic, and in all honesty, with the flavor of them, very awesome desserts that don't take a whole lot of effort, but it makes it look like you did. So, thank you for joining us, and hope you enjoyed